Good afternoon and welcome to the fourth concurrent session of the day, Blend with Data. Our presenter today is Burcu Karabina, faculty member at University of Waterloo. If you have any questions for the presenter during the session, please feel free to enter those into the Q&A section at the bottom of the Zoom room screen, and we will address those at the end of the talk. And on that note, I will hand it over to our presenter.
Thank you very much for the lovely introduction. I will begin by sharing my screen with you all. Okay. Can everyone hear me well? Can everyone see my screen well? If you can confirm briefly, quick answer in the chat, I would really appreciate it. Good. Okay, thank you very much. Hello, everyone. My name is Burcu Karabina. I am a full-time teaching stream faculty in the Faculty of Mathematics at the University of Waterloo, Ontario, Canada. I am also a member of a digital assets group. Digital assets group basically teaches on campus and online, as well as creating digital online learning contents for the University of Waterloo, especially Faculty of Mathematics. Prior to Waterloo, I worked as a full-time instructor in the Mathematical Sciences Department in Florida Atlantic University. Why did I move from Florida to Canada? Don't ask me, but I'm happy. Today, I'd like to tell you about our journey to bringing Linear Algebra 1 course online and then to blended format using our STEM-based platform called Mobius. And along the way, I will introduce some of the online teaching practices and principles we adapted and some of the teaching technologies we use in our online math courses. Finally, I will wrap it up with how we use our existing online course materials that were developed before and during COVID for some blended learning using the data provided from the past courses. So what is blending really? Let's take a look at the very definition of blended learning. There were different approaches to blended learning in terms of what blends with what exactly. But according to the Handbook of Blended Learning, Global Perspectives on Local Designs that was published in 2006 by Curtin, Spong, and Graham, the definition of blended learning is a system that combines face-to-face instruction with online instructions. So on the chart on the right-hand side in 2006, they kind of indicate that in the past, these were largely separate systems, traditional face-to-face learning environment versus distributed or computer-mediated learning environments. As the technology evolved, say, with the tools that made the synchronous learning a bit more accessible, we have started seeing these two areas kind of intersecting, right? Zoomers will acknowledge that this intersection has gained momentum as the years pass by, especially during COVID. What they call future is now is the future, as they predicted these two systems are almost inseparable now with lots of human elements complementing the computer-aided learning systems and lots of computer-aided learning systems and other learning technologies, in fact, supplementing in-person teaching. So before I tell you about my course, I'd like to give you a little bit of institutional context and tell you how our university was already very invested in online learning and creating digital learning experiences for their students. Before we have started this project, with more than 10,000 students, more than 250 full-time faculty members, more than 500 courses in math, stats, and computer science, the University of Waterloo had a rich history of distance and online education dating all the back to 1966. I actually met a faculty member at the Florida Atlantic University. She was not able to attend some courses because of her pregnancy. And I remember she telling me that their professors were actually taping the lectures on cassettes. I'm not sure you are old enough to remember the cassettes we have back then, and they would mail these cassettes to her so that she can actually continue her studies during her pregnancy and after the pregnancy as well. So it really goes back in date. And online, so the university's fully first online course that actually meets the definition of online courses was offered in 1995. And since then, online courses have steadily increased in popularity even before COVID times. Online course development in our faculty, typically is a collaboration between one or more course instructors and the Center for Extended Learning. Center for Extended Learning is a fully funded central support unit for the university, not just for the Faculty of Mathematics. They have more than 50 people assisting the university, let's say faculty, with the design and development and delivery of online and non-credit like professional development courses. So while instructors serve as subject matter expertise, CEL, our Center for Extended Learning, actually provides instructional support for us, including project management, pedagogical advice, creation of some assets, some nice figures, and the integration with our learning management system. So a typical course takes about like 10 months with tight collaboration between instructors and the members. Who are we as DAG? So as Digital Assets Group, this group was created to address the challenges of online learning and to propel the University of Waterloo into leadership in online education. So DAG is actually a subgroup of lecturers in the Faculty of Mathematics and a staff member that supports our mission. And they specialize in online teaching and learning initially. And then we also started reviewing and supporting the faculty with their search of learning technologies. We directly report to the Associate Dean for Undergrad Studies and Associate Dean for Online Studies in the faculty. We were formed back in 2019. So our mission was to create high quality educational assets within the digital space using data-driven and using analytics as a part of constantly improving iterative pedagogical cycles. So whatever we create, we always collect data, look at the effectiveness, and then use that data for the other iterations as well. Okay, so our faculty, here on the right-hand side, you see Mebius. Our faculty mostly uses a platform called Mebius. It's an online platform designed for STEM courses. It's basically an authoring platform. That's not going to be really the focus of today's discussion. I just want to focus on how we use this platform, because we recognize that there are many authoring platforms available out there that allows you to create content and deliver content. What we wanted to focus today is how we used advantage of having such a technologically rich environment to prepare learning activities for our students. So this particular one is helpful for us because it's powered by a mathematical software, Maple, which is able to grade automatically and generate automatically some really complex questions, including generating algorithmic questions. And some of the underlying questions are actually, the structure is the same, just sometimes just change numbers, but sometimes we need more complex ideas, say in higher level of calculus or differential equations course, or some math analysis course, or for some linear algebra course, we need more like complex structures that this mathematical software can easily handle. It also provides seamless integration of active learning components, such as we can embed in questions in the text, like here's a text, here's a question, here's a video, here is a question with immediate feedback. And we can also create algorithms in this feedback that would match the actual algorithmic questions. We can embed math apps such as worksheets from Maple software. We can include GeoGebra dynamic software. You can include your, I don't know if you have dynamic Desmos, you can include it in there. You can include interactive narrated slideshows. You can even embed questions in your slideshows to keep students more engaged and make sure they're paying attention to what they learn. So it's really a nice addition to traditional pieces such as your text, images, videos, and animations. So in addition to creating content, we also test and implement various learning technologies to support our faculty's teaching. For example, if they are looking into peer learning or peer feedback evaluation, peer evaluation for their course, we go in and find the right technology that meets their needs. If they are looking for a polling tool that would meet their course's needs. So we actually go into those kind of technologies as well. Anyway, so this linear algebra course that I used for my project was one of our very first projects. So we were really looking for the needs and challenges of the faculty. But this course being the first also gave me a lot of historical data on this course. I will get to that later. So first we needed to find an online platform to handle these sophisticated calculations required for higher level of math courses. So for example, our faculty do not focus on anything before Calc 1. So we immediately start with Calc 1. So we don't do any of those remedial math courses. So we immediately start from a higher level of mathematics because our students are pretty strong. And as soon as like the second year, they start their linear algebra course. We also needed to identify a teaching tool that was exceptionally well with 3D visualization, because on 2D, we could draw a lot of pictures. In 3D, some of us were really good at drawing pictures and like giving a true sense of what the 3D images look like, but the students needed something to interact with it, especially in their online courses or where the learning happens digitally. We also needed to comply with accessibility standards, serve a broad spectrum of learning profiles. We also needed a course that can host large number of students, because typically our courses, minimum course class enrollment, it starts from 100. I remember seeing it going up to thousands during COVID because we combined all the sections. We also wanted to create a modular, easy to share and easy to move around course pieces, because every instructor walks in and says, hey, I don't like what you said here. Can I change it? Sure, go ahead and edit it. Another teacher teaches another linear course. I'm like, hey, you can use the first six modules from my course. So everything was modular, smaller pieces that put together to create a course. So this course was like a really basic course. If you wanted to make it more rigorous, more difficult, you can take it and change it. You want to make it easier, you take it and change it. So it's really served as a really nice base for many faculty members. And for example, we have 4 different first-year linear algebra courses, and a lot of the content overlaps. So this course actually serves as a really nice base that can serve as a core, and then we go from there. As for the course design goals, this project actually was separated into 3 categories: course learning outcomes, which were written by the course authors together with the learning consultants; course design goals, which were guided by the overall course development team; course delivery, and the course delivery goals that usually depends on the instructor. So I'm not going to go there a little bit, and I'm not going to go over the learning outcomes for linear algebra because that's not the focus here. So I'm just going to focus on the design goals here. So following the universal course design principles as shown in the honeycomb here, content is presented to students using multiple means of representation: text, narrated slideshows, interactive outlets, like I mentioned earlier. Student engagement in the lesson are also sustained by the mean of these pieces. So it's not just dry read, students actually do something with the course material as they are going through it. I'll show you an example here. Students are also given multiple options for demonstrating their comprehension with frequent check-in questions with immediate feedback. These are computer graded Mobius assigned questions. In addition, they have their computer graded Mobius assignments. Again, they get immediate feedback on their assignment, which is very much like maybe you were using an online homework platform. Students get immediate feedback. So, and in addition, we especially give students written assignments so that they don't forget that they're in math, so they need to learn how to communicate math in written, and we put a lot of emphasis on math as a communication tool. So these elements combine a creative and inclusive learning experience that takes a variety of learning profiles into account, and most importantly, incorporates active learning experience. Math is learned by doing it. You have to do it while you're going through this course material. Also recognizing that students enter course with varying levels of prerequisite knowledge, here and there, the course includes short reviews of materials from previous courses or prerequisite materials. All learning components meet accessibility standards, content is screen reader friendly, logical, intuitive structure. So everything they need to learn in a healthy learning environment is already there. Okay. This is the modular course design I mentioned. On the left-hand side, they have their units. Units are divided into smaller sections. Sections are divided into pages. In the middle, you're going to see some interactive algebra, GeoGebra applets. This is from another course, but on the right-hand side, you see a narrated slideshow with embedded questions. So before I talk about how I used this course design in my blended learning, I'd like to give you a quick tour of what this really looks like. So I'm going to call it our interactive digital spacewalk from here. I'm going to switch sharing my screen. So a typical course, online course that we prepare will have weekly content. And this weekly content is going to look pretty much the same for all courses up to here. This is where I've started adding my touch, like really, really short videos, 1 to 2 minutes to go over basic procedures. So if you click on one of the courses, I clicked on vector projections, for example, you see that math is nicely rendered. Here is a video, your typical video. Sometimes you can embed questions in here and then move on. I don't have an example of that in this course. Nice definitions, meets accessibility standards and everything. Here's an example of embedded GeoGebra with instructions. That part is extremely important. You need to tell students what to do with an applet if you're giving them an applet, right? So they can see how the projection works if U and D are making different angles, right? And if you choose U in a different direction, what if you choose U and D parallel to each other or meeting on each other? Okay, and down below they see options like just show me the projection, just show me the perpendicular, or how these numbers change as we move U around. Examples with solutions in detail. As soon as they see an example, we typically ask them to go through a similar process, put their answers in there. We actually give students a lesson 0 on how to enter math in these input boxes, so they know how to create matrices, or they know how to create vectors in this question, and they can immediately click on how did I do and get feedback, which would be really difficult to imitate in a classroom setting, right? And if they couldn't get it right, they read the feedback and then they just try another themselves. And they can try as many times as they like. They might get it in 1 try, they might get it in 3 times. So it's really learning at your own pace. And for proof of questions, we kind of use our click and reveal. And you can create another page, and then students go from there. And these questions, we kind of put them all together in a testing environment, and we can give it as a test, timed test, or we can use as a lockdown browser. We can use it as a quiz with unlimited attempt with feedback, without feedback. So it really depends on how you would like to facilitate your learning environment for your students. This is what I'd like to go back to my slideshow. Okay, so this came in really, really handy, as you can imagine, during COVID-19. We just had to speed up the process a little bit because previously all the online courses at University of Waterloo were like, here's a bunch of videos, here's a bunch of exercises, that's it. And you have a facilitator who will be there to support your learning with different engagement activities. But we often realize that our data showed us that students don't watch these videos. They directly go into their quizzes. And if they need to go back and watch the videos to learn what they needed for their quizzes, because they're after the carrot, right? Which is okay sometimes. This behavior is not too bad, but it was very costly to create those videos in times of time and money, right? Because a lot of people were involved in the creation. So we said, okay, and there was not really interaction. Students were not really engaged with the course material while they're learning until they get to their quizzes. So we wanted students to be more engaged with the course material. So we came up with this idea of, which is not reinventing the wheel, that how can we make the learning environment more interactive? So we started working on that and came up with this interactive course environment where we can create sophisticated questions because we have the mathematical software Maple at the tip of our fingers. So that came in really handy. During COVID, all of us learned a lot of things, and some of the things that our students really liked is that they can learn from anywhere, at any time, and they can learn at their own pace. And we also, as I think the whole universe focused really on the learning objectives, because we quickly realized that recording hours of videos is no good for students. So we really need to focus on what do I want my students to get out of this. So we really put focus on the learning objectives. That made students also realize that, hey, these are my objectives. So that became like a very, both very nice communication. In this setting, students received immediate feedback, which was not always easy in a classroom. Like I can walk around and give students feedback, or can use a polling mechanism to give them immediate feedback. But the effectiveness of this and taking the time to go over the same example over and over again, if they needed, was really appreciated by students. They could get help anytime, pretty much anywhere, because we would teach these courses as a team. So everybody takes 2 hours a day or 1 hour a day to go on the discussion board and answer student questions. And some of the TAs were from other countries during COVID times, so they were helping students at different time zones. It came really handy. We understood and started appreciating, we always understood, but started appreciating the value of frequent testing. Our knowledge workers now have become learning workers. They learned how to learn during COVID. And I think that was a very valuable soft skill that we can ever teach our students. Everyone appreciated flexible schedule, including myself with homeschooling daughter at home during COVID-19. Everyone started appreciating the life-work balance, and life happens. And when life happens, you miss a class, the content was there for you to help. If it's well prepared, it will prepare you. And that certainly created a more inclusive learning environment, which also came with some downsides, right? We had a lot of academic integrity cases. I'm not claiming at all by here like that online students cheat, but some students cheat. They do cheat in class. They make poor decisions for various reasons, but academic integrity cases really boomed. And then contract cheating websites, we were in big fighting with these. And all of a sudden, since they were solving all the questions unwritten, we've started creating more difficult assessments, in some cases more individualized assessments, which was nice, but making it more difficult than it is supposed to be, like really made some of the content not within students' reach, and they were really discouraged. So they needed those easy questions to become fluent and to become confident in their skills to move on to the next level. But they were not really seeing a lot of that because of these cheating situations. We had authentication issues, like who is taking this exam, who is writing this exam, and the exams were a big thing. So, and previously in our online courses, final exam is the only proctored exam. So there's a huge weight, almost like 75% weight on the final exam. Like imagine your whole performance for 4 months will be graded on a 2 hours performance. It just didn't really sound right. Learning communities. Students felt really alone in their learning communities because they, mostly young, they need the interaction, we all do. So the human element was kind of missing in some cases. And this is a very typical in STEM courses. So there's this loneliness and technology disruptions affecting the testing, like they lose internet or they don't have reliable internet. So in that sense, it was inclusive, but in some cases not so inclusive, especially when it comes to the testing environments. And student to student and student to teacher interaction was a little damaged. We constantly looked for ways to improve all this. So what I've decided to do when I took over this course from my friends who taught this online many, many times, was my turn to teach it. I served as a reviewer for this course while they were creating the content. So I was familiar with the content and I was involved with the creation of this content. So I said, okay, maybe I will offer this course in a blended format and see how that works out. So my blended design had the learning part online and office hours and testing in person. For the online learning, I'll give students a recommended course pace, which is like tell them what to do every day. That also allows me to, if this may sound like a micromanagement, not all students use it, but this also allows me to balance the workload for my students. So I gave them a recommended course pace. It is spaced practice. Everything is visited several times over, like every unit is visited at least 3 times via different means, like learn or practice or quiz or come to my live session. They have weekly Möbius content that I showed you. They go through the lessons. They go through Möbius practice questions, separate exercise. They go through written practice problems, separate set. They go through weekly written assignments. All these are available. I'm not claiming everyone doing all this because it's really time consuming, but it's there for their choice. And then we have discussion boards, and that's 1 week of learning for them alone. So after 1 week, they come back to me on Monday and we say, okay, let's wrap up the last week. We do wrap up the last week, and then I start posting some extra practice questions for them, and sometimes little short videos about, like, let's quickly go over how to find a null space of this matrix, for example. And then at the end of the second week, so they spent almost 2 weeks learning the same material, and then they get their quiz on Friday. What happens this second week? It's like no learning happening? No, it is happening. They're learning unit 1 in week 1. Week 2, they're learning unit 2, and they are reviewing unit 1 again. So they spent 2 weeks on it. So they come back to me on Friday. On Fridays, I'm like, and I always have in-person office hours if they want to drop by. I have virtual office hours if they want to drop by. And on Fridays, we meet in a computer lab, and we have a tutorial for 15 minutes. So I spent the first 30 minutes of that tutorial talking about the muddiest points of the week. I'm going to tell you how I could get that information, like what are the muddiest points of the week. And we talk about this 30 minutes. Some pay attention, some don't. Some wants to work in groups. That's totally flexible learning environment. So I'm actually teaching at a corner. If they want to learn, they come and learn, review. If they want to do practice, they go and practice. If they want to do group study, they do group study. It's a really flexible learning environment for 30 minutes, and then everything shuts down, all the notes, everything away, including their calculators. And then we do testing for 20 minutes. It's time for them to test what they've learned and use it as a formative assessment, right? If you know that you missed question 9, go back and learn your question number 1, and the same cycle repeats. I was able to give 9 quizzes over the course of 13 weeks, 12 weeks actually, and 2 midterms. Those were all on Möbius, so automatically graded. I didn't have to grade anything except for the midterms. I did accept like some written work to give them part marks, but for the quizzes, I didn't no grading at all. So I did not need any grading support for these activities at all because it was all done automatically. For the midterms, it was all done automatically. I literally spent like 50 minutes to grade all the papers, and I was done for a class of almost 50 students. And the final exam in person pen and paper, their course average was 75% on the final exam, which was a very good result for this course. So what was I doing while they're doing all this learning all week long? What I was doing after designing all these activities. So as you can imagine, a lot of the work is actually done prior to offering this environment. So I am monitoring all the students' performance using the data we gather from the gradebook and from the dashboard that is available to us. So I'm watching who is completing lessons, who is not. I contact them. Who is completing quizzes, who is not. I contact them if necessary. If not, I'll leave them alone in their learning journey unless they come to me. Here and there, I check in. Who is just clicking and pretending like they're doing their lessons, I contact them because I can see how much they're spending on certain things. Student below is average, I contact them. Knock, knock, do you need help? Here are the resources available to you. Outstanding performance, I award them with badges. You submit all your work on time. Here's the badge for you. You are in top 5%, here's a badge for you. You're in top 10%, here's a badge for you. Badge for different things. And I can also in the back end can see which questions repeat the most. Since I can see how many times they click on try this, and I can actually see the number of attempts on each question. If one question is attempted more than the other, that goes in the muddiest point of the week content. So I know I get that information from students. in addition to, they come to my office hour and they want to discuss this topic. I'm like, okay, that goes on my muddiest list. But sometimes they're quiet, but I have the data that tell me that what they're struggling with. So that goes on the muddiest list as well. I can see the duration spent for each question. So I can design a question that's for 20 minutes. So students never complain that they ran out of time. And the duration spent for each question also, I have a historical data on this as well, not just for this course. So I can go back and check to see, hey, historically, this question typically takes 2.5 minutes, but this cohort is spending a little more than that. Maybe this cohort needs a little more video in here. So I actually use my resources very carefully when needed. And the surveys and data analysis helps us to determine whether what we did actually works or not. So first, I can convince myself that what I'm doing works, and the value of desperation. Maybe sometimes we do things and we don't get any feedback during the term, especially when the learning happens online. So that was like immediate feedback available to me during the term as well. So I can actually verify if what I'm doing is working or not, because I was teaching blended form and first time. In addition to talk to my students, I also wanted to cross-reference, okay, this is what you're saying, but let's see what data says about how you guys feel about it, or like what you guys learn about. I also use this as a selling point, faculty buy-in, to convince my peers that what I'm doing works. So far, I think it works. So I'd like to show you some data. Every term, we get our student evaluations. These are out of 5. These were probably one of the highest scores I've ever had. I'm not here to brag, but I'm just here to like kind of show how students were happy about their learning in this unusual setting. This was very new to them. So I made it clear that we're trying this. If something goes wrong, you need to tell me and we will find other ways of doing this. But I also told them that I will also be gathering data and will be sharing the data with students along the way to see if it matches with what I see or what they feel. So they felt like they were supported in terms of the course content. 4.5 at the beginning is out of 5. So they felt like I was there to help them understand the concept. Even if I was not there while they were doing Mobius lessons, I was there during the office hours, discussion boards, when they need me, the ritual hours. But they also knew that behind the scenes, we are the ones who design all these learning activities for them. We are the ones who make this deliberate choice for them and design it to be part of their learning. And interest in the course was high, intended learning outcomes. So they actually did think about the learning outcomes and like responded positively. 4.6 out of 5 was a good, like, okay, it's nice to hear that these students actually know what a learning outcome is and then like respond positively. And they thought that what we prepared in terms of learning helped them with their graded work. And the course load was a little more than intended because we want them to be at the average. At 3, it was a little more than intended, but that I think was very nice. I can hear the question, is this sustainable? Like, if you do it again, will you get the same results? You did it with, my student enrollment was 50 last term, like maybe 45 to 50. And this term it's 100. Is it scalable? So I prepared a quick Excel spreadsheet. I don't have the exact, honestly, I don't have the exact data from the student evaluations for this year because I'm just going through it. But what I usually do in the midterm, just before the reading week, I send out students satisfaction survey and ask them some of these questions in advance. And here's what they said midterm last semester. Response rate was 35 out of 50, so it was almost like 70% of the classroom responded, which is again great. It also shows how much they were involved and like willing to participate in this survey. Learning outcomes, 94 agreed, strongly or somewhat, depends on how they feel, that clearly identified. Course material and activities help them understand, 97. Enough material for them to learn, 97. Well organized, 91. Learning is assessed, through graded work 90. So all these positive results, assessments contribute to learning, this is essentially why they're being assessed. And I was happy to see 90% here, because it's not for grade, it's to assess learning. That then becomes the side product. Like grade becomes the side product, for me at least. They thought all the assessments were fair. They felt supported. And whenever they seek assistance, they were able to find someone there. Stimulation in the course is a little difficult here, because it's a really abstract course for them, especially these are non-math students, I must say. They're mostly from other faculties. These are not faculty of mathematics courses. They felt engaged mostly. They, this is really irrelevant, but they mostly spent 5 to 10 hours, which is what we aim for, honestly, but some spent a little more, depending on their background and how much they relied on Mobius, how much they relied on this online learning platform. Was that 60% of their learning, they think, helped them learn in addition to other pieces. And their satisfaction with this design was around 90%. So I said, okay, I'm convinced that it works. Let's try again. What I'm going to do this time, as much as I appreciate and value the time that I spent every minute with my students, I'm like, Burcu, how much of that really comes from the time you actually spent with students in class? I was really interested in this 30 minutes of learning period that I'm spending with students every week. Is it worth it or not? What if I'm not there? Or what if I'm there, but not really learning, just walking around and offering help? So that's what I'm trying this semester. My lab is larger because I have more students. Previous term, my lab was really cozy. We were working closely with all students, and I had 20 to 25 students. This time I have almost 40, 45 students in each lab. I have 2 labs. I have to divide it into 2 pieces. So I'm they're more spread out in a lab for 150 students all over the place. I walk around and I really hold back. I won't really go offer help unless they call for help, just for testing as much as I want to do. I'm like, how much is that going to change students' perception? I don't have the end of the term results yet, but I do have the midterm results, which was quite surprising to me. So from fall to winter, learning outcomes clearly identified has been affected in a positive way. Not great difference, 5% is I can live with. Activities help them understand, positive. Enough material, 4% is fine. I can live with that. That's a decrease from last term, but which is fine. Increase in organization, increase in assessed work, slight decrease, really just 2%. Assessment contributes to their learning. Fair assessments increase. Course environment is supportive. It's they have really 5%. It's not again a big drama. I'm still there for their discussion board. I'm still there for their weekly wrap-up sessions. I'm still there for their virtual office hours and in-person office hours, though I don't get anyone for in-person really not much. Last term they were there because my lab was in the same building with my office, so my office was really close to the lab. This time it's not, but I hold my office hours in the lab, but very little. There's a little bit of difference, which is almost 8% decrease from course personnel are helpful to students seeking assistance. It's basically because I'm not going to them at this point. I'm expecting them to come to me when they need help, although we repeat it many times, they still feel hesitant. So, but that's again, something I was testing, right? So when I'm not there, for these 30 minutes of learning, they feel a little less supported, but everything else still is positive. So learning is there. Everything else they essentially need is there. Interest in the course is a bit more here. It could be due to the fact that I have more students. Course material, course personnel encouraged me to be engaged with the course. Again, 4% is not very dramatic, but even if I want to explain the decrease, maybe I'm going to say, I'm really holding back from lecturing again for another 30 minutes, as much as I really want to dribble. How many hours they spend is pretty much the same. What is interesting to me is that this time students do not find, did not give me that, okay, 60% of my learning is actually coming from Mobius versus 41% is coming to me from Mobius. And I'm thinking last semester, I prepared these just-in-time quick videos a few days before the quiz. So they could serve as a really quick review. But now this term, now that I have all these short videos from last term, I made it available to all the students. Now I'm thinking maybe some of the students are just going through the videos and not going through the lessons. I'm really after that kind of information, and I'm trying to extract that information from students, but I'm thinking that might be why. But again, overall satisfaction is pretty much the same. So from here, what I'm reading is it is scalable, it is sustainable. If I repeat it again, I will get very much like similar results, combining this frequent testing in person, and students appreciate the frequent testing because they claim that it helps them to stay on track. Yeah, this is the data supported blended learning in my case. If you have anything to share, I'll be more than happy to hear. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
And this, we're going to take a moment for a portion of the Q&A. This was very informative and very helpful. Thank you so much for the topic. Was there any questions that you wanted to post into the Q&A from any of our audience? We have a few moments that we would be happy to answer those live where appropriate. Don't see anything coming through at this time, but it was very, very informative.
Maybe I'll drop my email in the chat, and if anybody has any questions.
That would be wonderful. Well, thank you so much. It looks like we are about to be out of time. So thank you so much for all the valuable information that you shared with us today. The next concurrent session will begin at 4:00 p.m. Eastern time. And you can view the chat for session meeting room links or access the conference website for a complete list of concurrent sessions and their descriptions. And while accessing the conference website, don't forget to swing by the virtual exhibit hall to say hello to the Hawks team. While there, you can view a quick 5-minute demonstration, request your t-shirt, and be entered to win a $50 hourly giveaway. Also, in the spirit of St. Patrick's Day, you'll find a few golden coins throughout the conference website. Click on the coins to be entered to win an additional raffle, and we will see you at the next session.
Goodbye, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the conference.